Hello and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Shivam Shukla. I am a Microsoft certified trainer at 𝗘𝘃𝗃𝗲, and I will be going to be your host today for this 45 minutes tightly scheduled webinar, where we will be discussing about the Microsoft Azure Sentinel SIEM tool provided by the Microsoft for automated investigation and response related to the different types of alerts generated based in our environment using Microsoft machine learning and AI capabilities. So let's get started. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for joining us, whether you have joined us from the Zoom meeting or you're watching us from any of the streaming media channels. On behalf of us here and the entire team, I welcome you all on board. So without any further delay, let's get started with our webinar. So before moving forward with our webinar, let's just discuss what are the different type topics do we are going to discuss it here based on the different agendas. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the Azure Sentinel overview, that what is a Azure Sentinel, why we are actually using it, and what is the benefit of using the Azure Sentinel in our environment. Then after, we are going to discuss about the top level concepts of the Azure Sentinels. That means what are the different components are available, related to which component, what are the different things we can do it here. Then we have the demo related to the configuration of Microsoft Azure Sentinel in our environment and how we can connect the different services with the Sentinel environment and how we can start working with that tool. Then in the last, we have some sort of Q&A session here where we are going to discuss about some sort of questions which has been asked by your side. So let's get started with our first topic related to the Azure Sentinel. So before discussing about the Azure Sentinel, let's discuss about a specific term called SIEM tool. That what is SIEM tool? It's here. So a SIEM tool is a tool that an organization uses to collect, analyze, and perform security operations on its computer systems and onto the different services which we are using. Those systems can be hardware appliances, applications, or both. So in its a simple form, if we can say a SIEM system enables us to collect and query the logs data related to the multiple services which we are using, also do some form of correlations or anomaly detections, and also it will help us to create some sort of alerts and incidents based on the different findings. The SIEM system might offer the different sets of functionality like log management, where we can have the ability to collect and store and query the log data from the different resources within our environment. Also, the next functionality it can offer is related to the alerting section, where a proactive look inside the log data for potential security incidents and anomalies can be detected, and we can raise the alerts accordingly. Then after, it can also provide us a functionality of visualizations, where we can use the multiple sets of graphs and the dashboards, which will help us to gain some sort of visual insights related to our log data, which has been connected with our SIEM tool. Then after, it's have another functionality called incidents management, where we are going to able to create, update, and assign and investigate the different sets of incidents that have been identified. Then after, it can also provide us a functionality called querying the data. So in a normal way, we can use a rich query language similar to that for the log management, which we can use to understand what are the logs do we have it presented here, and based on that, what are the different findings do we have related to the anomalous detectivities here. So that is an overview of the SIEM tool. Now let's talk about what is Microsoft Azure Sentinel. So Microsoft Azure Sentinel is a cloud native SIEM tool that a security operations can use to get some sort of security insights across the enterprises by collecting the data from the different resources, whether it is going to be your Azure Active Directory resources, whether it is going to be your activity logs in the Azure, whether it is going to be your user logs itself, whether it is going to be your machines logs itself related to the events management. So you can go and get the insights accordingly. You can also get detect and investigate the threats quickly by using the built-in machine learning and the Microsoft Threat Intelligence features in this specific tool called Azure Sentinels. Also, using the Azure Sentinel, you can automate those threat responses by using the multiple sets of playbooks or by integrating the Azure logic apps in your environment. Unlike with the traditional SIEM solution, to run the Microsoft Azure Sentinels, you don't need to install any kind of standalone servers either onto the on-premises or inside the cloud itself. Microsoft Sentinels is going to be used as a service that you can deploy in the Azure and you can start working with that. You can get up and running with Sentinels in just a few minutes in the Azure portal. Microsoft Sentinels is going to be tightly integrated with the different sets of services, like you can integrate it using the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint. You can integrate Azure Sentinel using the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. You can integrate your Microsoft Sentinels using the Microsoft Cloud App Security Postures. You can integrate it using your MTM tools. You can integrate it using your different sets of tools too we have. You can integrate it using your Azure Active Directory as well. So you can go and use the Microsoft Sentinels as on the centralized tool. And after that, you can integrate the multiple platforms in the Sentinels and you can start working from a centralized locations, and you don't need to open a different tools in a different times for multiple sets of queries. Microsoft Sentinels helps you to enable the end-to-end security operations using the collection of the logs, the detection of the different anomalies, activities done by the users. Also, it can help us to investigate those specific logs analytics things, and also it is going to allow us to respond it automatically using the different sets of playbooks or related to the workbooks which we have created. So first of all, we can, in the Azure Sentinels, it is going to collect the data from the multiple sources. Like it is going to collect the data from Azure Active Directory, from the MCAS portal, from the Azure Defender for Endpoint, from the Microsoft Defender for 365, from a Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, and with the different tools as well. Once it will going to collect all the data and store it into its own locations, into its own log analytics workspace, then after collecting the data, it is going to detect the specific set of anomalies or specific set of suspicious activities based on that log data. And how it is going to detect those kind of suspicious activities? So it is going to detect those activities using the Azure machine learning and the artificial intelligence program. Once it will detect any kind of suspicious activities, whether it is on a specific system which has been connected using the Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, or maybe it has been connected directly with the Sentinel workspace. Then after, it is going to investigate that specific suspicious activity using the machine learning again. You don't need to inform any kind of queries that what you need to perform, what you need to use, or what you need to do after getting that kind of anomalous detections in the SIEM tool. It is going to investigate that specific queries automatically using the machine learning program. After investigating, if Azure Sentinels find that this activity is a negative one and we need to respond it add on the real-time basis, then after it is going to respond those specific suspicious logins or suspicious activities as onto the real-time basis, again using the Microsoft machine learning program. So everything from step 1 to step 4, everything is going to be done automatically in the Azure Sentinels. We don't have to interfere anything. What we have to do, we just have to connect the data sources using the multiple sets of platforms. Other than that, everything is going to be done automatically if you're using the Azure Sentinel environment here. So that is a fully automated tool which you can use in your environment for a better security. If you wanted to create any kind of different rules apart from those machine learning programs, so you can create your own rules itself in the Azure Sentinel environment also. So that is depends that which type of alert do you want it to generate or which type of response do you want it to perform it here. So that is something based on to the needs of the customers. If you want to have the custom configuration available, you can go and use the custom configurations. And if you are wanted to use the automated configurations itself, so you can start working with the automated configurations as well. Moving forward, if I'm talking about some sort of top level concepts of the Sentinels, so the very first things do we have in the Azure Sentinel environment is data connectors. So what is a data connectors? So whenever you are deploying the Azure Sentinel in your environment, the first thing you do is to have your data injected in your Microsoft Sentinel environment for the further process. So data connectors will help you to enable to do that. You can just add different sets of services like Azure activity logs, Azure sign-in logs, Azure audit logs, Microsoft Defender for endpoint logs, Microsoft Defender for 365 logs. You can use the different sets of agents as well for non-Azure machines if you just wanted to connect them with your environment. So that's all the things you can do using the data connectors here. If I'm talking about which type of logs do you can connect, so you can go and connect your syslogs in your Azure Sentinel environment using the data connectors. You can use the common event format connector as well. You can use the threat intelligence connector as well. You can use the Azure related connectors as well. You can also go ahead and implement the AWS environment also. If you just wanted to connect your AWS services with the Azure Sentinels, you can also go and do the same thing in your environment. The next thing do we have is related to the incidents. So what is an incident? Incidents is a set of a different set of multiple alerts generated by the Azure environment. So an incident is going to be created when an alert that you have enabled is going to be triggered. So in Microsoft Sentinel, you can standard incident management tasks like changing the status or assigning the incidents or to individuals for investigations. If you just wanted to assign any of them, you can do the same thing in the Sentinel environment also. The Microsoft Sentinels also has the investigation functionality. So you can visually investigate the incidents by mapping the different entities across the log data along a log lifetime here. Moving forward, next topic do we have is related to the workbooks here. So what is in workbooks? So you can use the workbooks to visualize your data within Microsoft Sentinel environment itself. So you can think of a workbook as a dashboard. Each component in the dashboard is going to be built by using a specific query called KQL. That is a custom query language for your data. You can use the built-in workbooks within the Microsoft Sentinels, edit them to meet your own needs, and you can also create your own custom workbooks as well if you just wanted to create it from scratch. So if you have ever used the Azure Monitor workbooks, so this feature of the Azure Sentinel workbooks is going to be a same familiar to you because it's going to be a same configurations. Just like we are creating the Azure Monitor workbooks, same way we can deploy the Azure Sentinel workbooks itself. Moving forward, the next thing we can talk it here. So after that, we have a threat hunting tool available in the Azure Sentinel. So what is a threat hunting? So we are not going to deep dive related to the threat hunting in this specific webinar. However, if any kind of SOC analyst needs to hunt for suspicious activity, so there are some sort of built-in hunting queries are also available that they can use it here, and analysts can also create their own queries. So Sentinel auto integrates with the different Azure notebooks if you have any. So it will provide the example notebooks also for the advanced hunters who wanted to use the full power of a programming language to hunt through their entire data. So you can go and start working with the threat hunting queries also. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the notebook here, so what is a notebook? A notebook is something which we can go and create a different sets of queries itself, which is going to help us to investigate any kind of log related queries in the Azure environment. Moving forward, if I'm talking about another feature do we have is related to the entity behavior. So Azure Sentinels also allow us to work over to the entity behavior concepts, where it is going to identify the behavior of a specific system of a specific user from their previous data, and based on that it is going to read out the current working behavior of the users, and if it will find any kind of suspicious things to be happened based on the last data do we have, accordingly it is going to alert the generate, and also it is going to respond it as onto the same time. So if you just wanted to work with your entity behavior concepts, you can start working with the Azure Sentinels as well. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the threat intelligence, so you can also use this specific feature called threat intelligence in the Azure Sentinel environment also, where we can use the different sets of threat intelligence common factor using the Microsoft machine learning, and we can integrate it using the different scenarios. Like you can investigate the alerts accordingly, you can go and run some sort of queries also in your Microsoft environment. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the analytics here, so far if you have your logs and the data visualizations available, now it would good to be have some proactive analysis across your data. So you have notified when something suspicious occurs, you can enable a built-in analytics alerts within your Sentinel workspace. So there are various types of alerts you can create, some of which you can edit to your own needs. Other alerts are going to be built onto the machine learning models, and they are going to be proprietary to the Microsoft itself. You can also create your own custom schedule alerts from the scratch if you want. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the playbooks, so the playbooks is a concept where we can create any kind of run book in the Azure environment for the respond method, where we can use some sort of Azure automations, the functions apps, the logic apps, which we can integrate each and other with itself for responding any kind of alerts what we have. So we can go and start working with the playbooks here. Now let's talk about all those things in the demonstration spaces, that how we are going to deploy that Azure Sentinel environment in the Azures, and how we are going to connect the different systems using the Azure portal, using the on-premises systems as well. So let me just go back towards the Azure portal. So here you can see that we are in the Azure portal as of now. And now if I'm talking about that you wanted to implement the Azure Sentinel in your environment, so how you can go and start working with the different sets of Azure Sentinel environment. So for deploying that specific service, you need to go and find the Azure Sentinel in here. So let me just find the Sentinel again. So here you can see that we have this option available called Microsoft Sentinels. You have to use this specific service. Once we'll click on that service, it is going to allow us to create anything here. So let me go and create a Microsoft Sentinel environment. But before creating any kind of Sentinel in your workspace, you need to have a specific log analytics workspace available in your environment. So let me just quickly create a log analytics workspace firstly, and then we are going to deploy this Microsoft Sentinel service here. So let me go back towards the log analytics here. So let me go for log analytics service first, and we are going to create it here. So let me go for a resource group. I'm going to call this resource group as Sentinel here. Let me click on OK. Then after, I'm going to provide a specific name for my log analytics workspace. So I'll say that the name is going to be Sentinel webinar. So I'm going to call this one as a Sentinel webinar. Always make sure that whenever you are creating any kind of services into the Azure itself, always make sure that you will provide a suitable name, a meaningful name for your resources so that you can categorize them, you can identify them, that why we are using this specific service in our environment here. So now let me just go for hitting on review and create option. And then we are going to create it here. So let's wait till the time it is deploying it. Once the validation is going to be passed, you need to click on this create button, and that is going to be created your log analytics workspace here. And once that workspace is going to be created, we are going to create a Microsoft Sentinel environment also. Okay, so now log analytics workspace has been deployed it here. Now let's move back towards the home page. And this time we are going to create a specific Microsoft Sentinel service as well. So let me go for Microsoft Sentinel environment here, and we are going to create a new Sentinel service. And here you can see that whatever the log analytics workspace we have created earlier, that workspace is currently presented. If you don't have any of the log analytics workspace available, you can also create it directly from here. But this time we have created it earlier. So let me just add the same analytics workspace in this specific service. We are adding it here. Let's wait for some time. Okay, so now once we have attached a specific set of log analytics workspace, our Sentinels has been deployed and we can start using this service. By default, it is going to give me a free trial in this specific workspace for approximately 1 month. And then after, it is going to be deleted. But by default, we can use it for 1 month as a part of a trial environment. And if you just wanted to go ahead and start working with the real-time scenarios, you can go ahead and purchase a license for that. Moving forward, just like we have talked about the different sets of concepts, those concepts are going to be presented here. The incidents matter is presented, the workbooks are here, the hunting things are here, the notebooks are here. You can start working with the multiple things, whatever you want. So let's get started. First of all, using the data connectors. That first of all, we need to inject the data in our analytics workspace, and then we can perform the different sets of tasks using the Sentinel workspace. So how we are going to connect those specific environment. So for connecting out the data, what we have to do, we have to go for the configuration sections, and here we will find this option called data connectors, which we can use it. So by default, we have the 122 data connectors available using the different sets of services in the Azure or outside the Azures. And using these service data connectors, you can connect your environment, your Sentinel environment with that specific service, where the Sentinel will going to take out the data from that specific service. Like I say, you wanted to inject the data from your Azure Active Directory, so you can find out the specific connector here related to your Azure Active Directory concepts. So if you just wanted to inject the data or you wanted to connect it, you need to click on that data connectors here. After clicking on that data connectors, what we have to do, we have to go and hit on that button called Open Connector Page. So let me go for open it. And once we have opened this data connectors, it is going to give me the prerequisites, that what prerequisites do we need to attach that specific service in our environment, then what are the different configurations we need to do, what are the steps we need to perform. So everything is going to be written in here. You don't have to worry about anything, the prerequisites and all of those things. Whenever you will specifically select any connectors, based on that, it is going to give you the information that what are the prerequisites you required. So this time I'll say I wanted to connect my Azure Active Directory here, where I just wanted to receive the sign-in logs, as well as to the audit logs, as well as to the other options also. So if you just wanted to attach any kind of logs, you can just directly select the details from here. And once you have selected everything related to which you wanted to receive the logs, you can go for apply changes. So that is the simple steps how we can connect our Azure Active Directory with our Sentinel's environment. And here you can see for the connectors that it is currently connected. Going for the next section, so here you can see that it has our different sets of templates available related to the rules. If you just wanted to check out the rules, you can go and hit on that option called create rule option. Based on that, it is going to detect your environment. So now we have click on that apply changes. We can go back it here. Let me close. So now we have this Azure Active Directory is now connected with our environment. So let me hit on a refresh button, and it is going to give me the options that you have connected your Azure Active Directory services. So you can see that we have actually connected, and it will going to take some time. Apart from that, if I'll say you wanted to go ahead and receive the data related to your Azure Active Directory protection, so you can go for Active Directory Identity Protections connector as well. You can hit on that open connector page, and here you can see that it is going to ask you to activate the Azure AD Premium P2 license. Until you are not going to enable the Premium P2 license in your environment, it is not going to allow you to connect that specific service with your Sentinel environment. So how we can go and do the same thing? So based on that, every prerequisites are going to be presented. So let me go back it here, and let me just activate the Premium P2 license on my environment so that we can connect that specific connector also. So going for the licenses, all products. Okay, let me go to a free trial related to the Premium P2. I'm activating it. And now my Azure AD Premium P2 license has been successfully activated as onto the trial basis. Let me hit a refresh once, because sometimes it will going to take the time to get the things in effect. So let me just do a refresh once, so that it is not going to give me an error at the time of connecting the workspace. So now I'm going back to the data connector scenarios, and here I'm going to search the Active Directory again. So let me go for Azure Active Directory Identity Protections. Let me hit on open connector page, and here you can see now my prerequisites has been delivered. Now let me go and connect my Azure Active Directory Identity Protection alerts towards my Microsoft Sentinels. And here I'm going to enable some sort of incidents to be created automatically based on the machine learning program. So I've enabled the feature, as well as I have connected myself with this specific environment. And here in the status, you can see now it is connected. So let me go and close it here. Let me hit on a refresh button, and then it will going to take some time to show me the connected devices with me. Now what I'm going to say that if you wanted to connect your specific Windows machine using this specific Sentinel environment, so how we can go and connect a specific Windows machine here. So we have two different ways. First of all, we can go and start working with the Azure virtual machines environment. The second of all, we can go and start working with the non-Azure Windows machines. So this time we are going to connect our non-Azure Windows machines. Like I'm going to connect my own physical machine with the Sentinel environment for the better security. So how we can go and do the same thing. So we'll have to search a specific connector here called security event. So here we will find this option called security event via legacy agent. We need to just select that specific to connector. Once we have selected, let me hit on open connector page. And after opening it, it is going to allow me to check out the prerequisites. So my prerequisites already available that I have this kind of permissions with me with my workspace. And also I have this permission for my read data sources. Now in the configuration sections, what I need to do. So currently I need to download and install the agent on my physical machine. So you have the two different options available, the two different links for downloading the agent. One is for Azure Windows virtual machines and second one is for non-Azure Windows machines. So currently I'm going to create my attach my own physical machines with the Sentinel environment. So I'm going to use my second option called install agent on non-Azure Windows machine. So let me go for download and install agent, the link which has been provided. And here we'll have to download this specific agent related to the bits we have. Like if you have the Windows available with the 64-bit, you need to download this agent. If your machine is onto the 32-bit is running, you can download this specific agent here. So because my machine is actually working over to the 64 bits, so I'm downloading this agent. After downloading the agent, at the time of connecting, it is going to ask you the workspace ID, the primary key and the secondary key. So you need to copy these values also while connecting the data sources with your environment. So let me open up this tool and let me run it here. So first of all, it is going to ask you to provide the admin rights. Once you have provided the admin rights, it is going to give you that specific environment. Let me go for next. Then after, it is going to ask you whether you wanted to repair your already installed agent or whether you wanted to remove it. So because I have already connected my system with the different scenarios, so that's why it is going to ask me to repair it. So let me go for repair and hitting on next button. And let me go for install. And now it is going to validate my settings and it is going to install that specific Microsoft monitoring agent in my physical machines. And once it's done, we'll have to connect the workspace ID and the primary key with this tool here. Okay, let me do one thing. Just give me a second. I'm going to reinstall this specific server so that we can see how we have to connect it. So just give me a second. I'm just uninstalling that Microsoft monitoring agent in my physical PC, and then I'm going to install it again. Okay, so now agent has been uninstalled from my physical PC. Let me go for running that specific script again and going for the next button. And here you can see it is going to ask me to confirm the license. I'm going to agree myself. And then it is going to ask me that where do you actually wanted to create a folder. So I'm going to use the default one. And here I'm going to connect it towards my OMS platform, that Azure Analytics Workspace. And here it is going to ask me to provide the workspace ID and the primary key. So let me copy this workspace ID and paste it here. Then I'm going to copy the primary key and I'm going to paste it here. Then after it is going to ask me which type of Azure cloud environment are you currently using. If you are working with your public cloud, you can go for the commercial here. If you are working with your US government, so you can select the US government cloud environment. If you are working with the Azure China environment, you can select the Azure China here. If you are using any kind of NAT or SEC environment, you can select that specific environment here. But because currently I'm using the Azure commercial environment, so I'm using the Azure commercial here, hitting on the next button again. And then after it is going to ask me whether you wanted to use the Microsoft updates related to this MMA software, or do you don't want to update that specific software by default. So I'm going to select that I don't want to use the Microsoft update as of now, hitting on next, and then it is going to install it here. So once we are going to install this one, the logs data is going to be generated and diverted towards directly with my log analytics workspace, which has been connected with the Microsoft Sentinel environment here. And then after we can start working with the different queries. So now it's done. So that is the simple steps how we have to go and register our specific set of non-Azure Windows machines with our environment. Going for the Microsoft environment here, the Sentinel one, hitting on the refresh, and let us see how many tools do we have just connected. So let me hit refresh once. So it is saying that currently one connector is connected, but it is going to take some time to update the details here. However, we have connected the 3 different connectors with our Microsoft Sentinel environment. Now, if I'll go and talk about connecting our on Azure machine with this specific Sentinel environment, so how we can go and install the same thing. So let me go and create a virtual machines first, and then we are going to connect our Azure virtual machines with the Sentinel environment also. So let me go and provide the resource group, what we are going to use it. And I'm going to call this machine as machine 01 in the East West location. I'm going to use the Windows 2022 data center. And here I'm going to provide the specific username and the password. Once everything is going to be done, let me hit on review and create. And once the validation is going to be passed, we can go and hit on that create button again. Let me go for create. Okay, till the time it is creating, let me go for another portal again for the Sentinel environment so that I can show you a little bit more different connectors here. So going for the Sentinel environment and again going for the Sentinel scenario. And here if I'll say you wanted to connect the syslog environment here. So for doing the same thing, we have a specific connector available called syslog. You can use the Microsoft syslog tool also for connecting the service with your Sentinel environment. Moving forward, if you just wanted to work with the Defender, so you can go and search for the Defender here. Based on that, it is going to give you the different connectors for your Defender for Clouds, Defender for Cloud Apps, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for IoT, Office 365, and everything. So you can get the different sets of connectors available here. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the Cloud App Security, so you can find the Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps also if you just wanted to connect your MCAS environment with the Sentinel here. So you can search the different sets of connectors which are already available and you can start working with them. Moving forward, if I'm talking about the incidents here, so whenever any kind of incidents is going to be found, those incidents are going to be reflected it here. Based on that, how many number of open incidents are available in your environment, those are going to be listed out here. Based on that, it is going to show you what are the new incidents has been claimed in last 24 hours. Then how many incidents are currently active and still working on to that. Those things are going to be displayed out here in this environment. You can change the time limits. You can go for selecting the security infinity workbooks and other things as well. Going for the workbook scenarios, so you will have these different sets of templates already available where you can use those templates for creating any kind of workbooks or for modifying any kind of changes from your sites. If you just wanted to go ahead and create your own workbook, so you can go for the My Workbook Scenarios, and here it is going to show you what are the different workbooks are already available which your environment is currently using. But currently I didn't create any kind of workbooks, so it is not providing me any details here. If you just wanted to add anyone, you can go for add workbooks here. Then after, it is going to ask you to open a specific workbook related to which do you actually wanted to create a query. So you can go for the open sections, and from here you can open up any of the workbooks which has been already available. You can also go and select your galleries if any kind of workbooks are available in your gallery itself. So let me go for adding the workbooks here. Let me go for edit button. And in the edit buttons, we can configure that what are the things to be required. That here you can see it is saying that it is going to give you that specific information. So if you just wanted to add any kind of queries, you can go and set the queries. Once it's done, you can hit on done editing. Then again, you can go for add. Then after, it is going to ask you whether you are going to add a specific query or a specific matrix or a specific parameters. So you can select the specific workbooks according to the multiple options. Let me say I just wanted to see the matrix of my virtual machines. So I'm going to specify a matrix. I just wanted to run the matrix based on last hour. Line chart is going to be done, and we can hit on that run button. And let me go for adding the work matrix. I just wanted to use this specific namespace, and then I wanted to see the specific set of, we can see it, I just wanted to see the events which has been opted. Based on that, I just wanted to see the count of them. Let me hit on save. Once it's done, we can go and hit on run matrix. So currently, any of the virtual machines is not connected. So that's why it is not showing me any of the details. But if you have the virtual machines available, those details are going to be displayed out here directly. Same way, you can go and create another one. Let me say I just wanted to run a query. In the query, I just wanted to say I wanted to see the security alerts only. So I can go for running this query here and I can hit on run button. Based on that, if any of the security alerts has been generated with my machines, those security alerts are going to be displayed it here. If you just wanted to get another query, let me say, I just wanted to get the event logs. So let me go for event here and run the query. So if any of the events has been happened, those type of queries are going to be listed out here itself. And which type of query do we need to create? We need to go and create a query called 𝗘𝗃𝗲. So we have to use that specific query. Once everything is going to be done, you can save your workbook. You can define the name and select the subscriptions, select the resource to where do you want it to say, and hit on that save button. So that's how you can create a specific workbooks and you can save it at any given point of time. Then after, if you're just going for the hunting button, so you can go and start using these hunting options. where you can create your own query. You can select the specific queries here and you can start working with them. So let us say currently we have overall 208 total queries available, in which we have the 150 query is also presented. So let us say I just wanted to run a query called DNS event. I just wanted to see the DNS lookups. So let me go for run query, and if anything's happen, it is going to show me the details here. But currently we don't have any of the things available, like we don't have any of the machine available as of now, so that's why it is not running me the details here. Let us say I just wanted to run the specific query here called let me go for data sources sorting, and here I'm going to select the specific logon attempt. Let me hit on run query, and here it is going to show me the details that how many when the logon attempts has been made in your environment, and based on that how it is going to be work. Currently it is showing me 0 results, but once your users are present in your environment and those users are actually trying to make a login in your environment, because after connecting the Azure Active Directory connectors, I didn't logged in any times, that's why it is not showing me the details. But if you make the login, then after it is going to show you the results here. You can also use this button called run all queries to running all different queries as onto the same times with your environment. Moving forward, you can go for the notebooks here, which you can use it for creating the notebooks at any given point of time. Same way, if you just wanted to work with your entity behavior scenarios, so you can go and configure your entity behavior as well related to the different data do we have available. So you can go for editing the settings. You can go and hit on that configure UEBA options, and you can on a specific tools which you wanted to use it. Once it's going to be enabled, you are going to click on that apply button based on these different sign-ins, and let me hit on apply. So now your entity behavior alerts has been configured successfully, and if anything goes wrong, if any kind of suspicious activities is going to be identified by the Azure Sentinels related to your users or your machines, it is going to show you the details in the entity behavior column here. So you can see the alerts and you can start working with that scenario. So that's how the things is going to be done in the Microsoft Sentinel environment here. So that is all about the things which has to be shared by my side in this tightly scheduled webinar here. So if you just wanted to go ahead and connect ourselves with the upcoming events, you can just scan this QR code from your mobile phone and you can get the details of the upcoming events which has been provided by our company. You can also go and register yourself for the upcoming webinars on this website called gtechlearn.com/webinars.aspx. So thank you guys for attending this webinar of today. Now it's time for the questions which has been asked by your side so that we can answer it. So let me just quickly go ahead and open up the chat portal here so that you guys can post your questions, whether you are connecting with the Zoom or whether you have connected with your any kind of live streaming applications. So you can post your questions over there and we are going to attain some sort of questions and we are going to answer them here. Okay guys, so you can post your questions here. Okay, so we have received our very first question from our sites. That the question is, what are the prerequisites for Azure Sentinel? Okay, so if we are talking about the prerequisites for configuring the Azure Sentinel environment in your Azure portal, so first of all, you need to have an Azure account available. Then you need to create a specific log analytics workspace, which is going to be dedicatedly working with Azure Sentinel only. Then after, the user who is going to create the Azure Sentinel environment or who is going to manage the Azure Sentinel environment, so they will have the relevant permissions to operate. So if they don't have the relevant permissions, they can't go and start working with Azure Sentinels. Okay, so the next question we have received is, which permission do we require to operate the Azure Sentinel? Okay, so if we are talking about the roles which we have to align towards the user sections, so we'll have the 4 different roles available related to the Microsoft Sentinel environment. The first role is Microsoft Sentinel Reader, where the user can read the different details, the reports which has been generated by the Microsoft Sentinel itself. Then after, we have a second role available called Microsoft Sentinel Responder, which is going to be allotted to those users who just wanted to respond related to a specific events which has been triggered related to a specific incidents. Then after, we have another role available called Microsoft Sentinel Contributor, the third one. So if anyone wanted to go ahead and create some sort of workbooks or some sort of incidents alert scenarios, so related to them, you need to assign this role towards the user. And we have a last role available called Microsoft Sentinel Automation Contributor. So if anyone wants to create a specific playbooks or the logic apps or to the functions apps for just quickly go and respond the related alerts, so you can assign that specific role to the user. Okay, so now we have another question received from the user sides, that is Azure Sentinel is a platform as a service or security as a service? So I'll say that Azure Sentinel is a SaaS service presented in the Azure that is known as a security as a service. It is a SIEM tool provided by the Microsoft. Based on this high scalability, we can call it as SaaS. Okay, we received another question here, that what is the difference between Azure Sentinel and Security Center? Okay, so Azure Sentinel is a security information and event management systems for detecting and responding to the threats as onto the real-time basis. However, the Azure Security Center is a cloud security posture management systems, which is going to automatically check for misconfigurations in the cloud setup. So that is the difference between the Azure Sentinel and Security Centers here. Okay, guys, so that's all the things from my side here. If you guys have any kind of other queries, you can just post it out into the chat box and we'll happy to help you. And if you wanted to attend our next upcoming webinars, so you can go for our websites called 𝗘𝘃𝗲𝗲.com and you can register yourselves for the upcoming webinars, where we have multiple webinars up in line presented related to the multiple scenarios, related to the multiple concepts. So thank you guys. Thank you for attending this webinar here.